Welcome. My name is Nikki Underwood, and I'm a pre-K quality support specialist with Bright from the Start. This video series, Phonological Awareness, the Pathway to Literacy, is intended to provide an overview of the skills on the phonological awareness continuum and how each step on the continuum strengthens children's phonological awareness skills to build towards reading readiness. In this video, we will dive into the most complex skill on the continuum, phonemic awareness. Let's take a quick look at the phonological awareness. Previously, we have talked about the skills listening, rhyming, alliteration, and segmenting sentences and words into syllables in previous videos. This video is going to address the most complex skills at the top 2 steps of the continuum. These skills involve manipulating and blending individual sounds of words, beginning with onset rhyme and moving on to individual phonemes. Let's begin by talking about onset rhyme. First, I'd like for us to recall the definition of phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the understanding that words are made up of individual sounds, or phonemes, and the ability to manipulate those phonemes either by segmenting, blending, or changing individual phonemes within words to create new words. Phonemic awareness is a listening skill. Once children have mastered rhyming, can isolate beginning sounds, can break sentences into words and words into syllables, they are then ready to begin working on the most complex skill, manipulating individual sounds in spoken words. Phonemic awareness is the ability to segment, manipulate, and blend individual phonemes. Children have to be able to listen and tune in to the individual sounds of the spoken words. Phonemic awareness skills are built in progression, just like the continuum we've been talking about in this video series. Children will start with segmenting words into onset rhyme. Onset is the first sound of the word, and the rhyme is the whole part of the word that comes after the beginning. For example, if you take the word cat and segment it into onset rhyme, you would have k, at. And if you put it back together, k, at makes cat. Once children can segment words into onset rhyme, they will then be able to focus in on the individual sounds of the words, manipulate and blend those individual phonemes. Phonemic awareness activities should always focus on listening. Let's take a look at 2 activities that we could do in the classroom and see if these activities are listening activities or not listening activities. On the left, you see onset sort, where students will use picture cards to break words into onset rhyme and then sort pictures by matching the onset of the word. This is very similar to those skills and activities we did when we were talking about alliteration, beginning to break those words into and sort them by the onset. I'm talking about the onset. On the right, you see an activity called onset rhyme match, in which the teacher will write words and parts on cards. Students will be given a card with an onset or a rhyme. Students must match their cards to make words. On the left, you see an activity where children are listening and breaking words apart just by listening and looking at pictures of words. So the focus of this activity is to listen. So this is a listening activity. On the right, the activity onset rhyme match involves looking at words and print, and so this is more of a phonics activity. This is not a listening activity. Not only that, but it would not be developmentally appropriate for 4-year-olds to be given word cards that were broken into onset rhyme to be able to match them. We want to make sure that no matter what activities we're doing, they're always developmentally appropriate for the age level that you're working with. So writing onset and rhymes on a card for children to match would not be a listening activity. That would be a looking activity. Appropriate onset rhyme activities include using picture cards to segment words into onset rhyme, orally breaking words apart and then putting them back together, such as saying the word hat at, hat, or mop, op, mop. If children can mimic and repeat after you when you are breaking those words apart and putting them back together, that will reinforce and help them practice so that they can begin to do it independently. Once they can break those words apart and put them back together, then you might even try another complex activity, which are sound substitution games. And this is where children are manipulating those phonemes. So if you asked children to say the word mop, they would repeat after you, mop. Now change the to hopefully they would be able to remove the onset and replace it with the onset for a new word, hop. Those are challenging and complex skills for children to master. They need a lot of practice and a lot of modeling. So remember that we always want to focus on clearly enunciating the words that you're saying and putting the emphasis on the part of the word that you want the children to pay attention to. Once children can successfully break apart the onset from the rhyme in a word, they are then ready to move on to manipulating and blending the individual phonemes within a word. You'll know they're ready to move on when they can segment words into onset rhyme and then blend an onset rhyme pair back together to make a word. So activities like asking children to tell you the onset rhyme of the word cop. That if they can successfully segment that word into onset rhyme, they might be ready to move on to the next step on the continuum. If children are able to put a word together when given two sounds, for example, og, og makes the word dog. If they can blend those onset rhyme pairs together to make a word, they're probably ready to move on to manipulating those individual phonemes, which is the last step on the continuum at the very top. Phoneme manipulation and blending. Phoneme manipulation activities should always be focused on listening. We should be thinking about the sounds, the individual sounds of a word instead of the letters that make up the word. That part will come later when they begin to put phonemic awareness together with letter knowledge and they are ready for phonics instruction and they start decoding words that they're looking at. But until they're looking at the words, until they're ready for that, we need to get them ready for that by getting them to listen to the individual sounds, manipulating them and blending into making new words. Whenever you're beginning to work on phoneme manipulation, you first have to get the children to isolate and identify the individual phonemes of a word. The best thing to do is start with two sound words. Begin segmenting two sound words into individual sounds. For example, g-o, g-o, g-o says go. Another example would be t-oo, t-oo, t-oo says two. If you can begin segmenting two sound words, then you'll be able to work your way up to three sound words. You want to start with those CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant words, and really emphasize each sound as you're saying it so that children can blend it back together. And then emphasize each word, clearly enunciating the sounds so that children can break them apart. For example, the word mop. Mop. Say it very clearly, accentuating each sound. Ask children to pay attention to the way your mouth is moving. Mop. If they can successfully isolate those sounds into ah, ah, p. Try another word. Try giving them the sounds and see if they can blend the sounds together and make the word. So if the word is cat, k, at, can they blend that into cat? You can help them do this by using counters or manipulatives to segment individual sounds and words. Children are ready for phonics instruction at the end of pre-K, beginning of kindergarten, when they have a strong phonological awareness, strong phonemic awareness, and they are able to identify some, most, or all of the letters of the alphabet. As you're working through the pre-K year, you're also doing letter knowledge activities with your children, and then introducing them to the sounds that each letter makes, and they will be ready for phonics instruction when they get to kindergarten. If you have built these steps of the continuum in the progression that they appear on the continuum, and made sure to address each skill individually and in depth to strengthen each skill before moving on to the next. Now what? What comes next? How do you now take what we've talked about over the last several videos and plan appropriate activities? No matter what you choose to do, make sure that your activities always focus on listening. Whether you're working on rhyming or sentences, always focus on listening. Remember, phonological awareness activities can be done in the dark. How much time should you spend on each skill before moving on? There is a phonological awareness pacing guide available for your reference. I will link the phonological awareness pacing guide down below in the comments. I will also provide a link to the Southwest Georgia Pre-K resource portal, which is a Google site that houses a lot of these resources, and you can visit that website and find resources that way as well. But the phonological awareness guide is out there, and it tells you how much time exactly to spend on each skill before moving on to the next. Where can you find activity ideas? Georgia Pre-K several years ago put out the GELDS Teacher Toolbox. You can certainly refer to that resource for activity ideas. You can also look at the Off to a Good Start weekly phonological awareness activity document. That one is also linked on the website in the comment section. How do you provide intervention when children are struggling? This is a big question that teachers often wonder. How do I address the needs of the children and figure out where they are in the continuum and provide that intervention? So through observational assessment, through playing rhyming games and listening games, and using picture sorts and objects to get children to talk and say words and break words apart. If you will do observational assessments, you'll begin to understand which skills your children are struggling with. And if you refer back to the phonological awareness continuum and you identify where the struggle is, you'll be able to back up down the steps of the continuum and address the previous skill along with listening skills to strengthen those skills in order to get them ready to move on. No matter what, it's always a good idea to revolve your activities back around to listening, and always practice and reinforce listening as your key skill. Because remember, no matter what, if they're saying the words to you incorrectly, if they're saying it wrong, they're most likely hearing it wrong. Thank you so much for joining me on this video series as we walked through the phonological awareness continuum. Teaching, reteaching, practicing, repetition, and intervention are key to ensuring that each individual child has strong phonological awareness skills and is ready to move on to the next step on the continuum. If you need further resources on phonological awareness or any other instructional segment of the pre-K day, or if you're a director and you need further resources, I encourage you to check out the Southwest Georgia Pre-K resource portal. It is a Google site that I use to house multiple resources that can be used in pre-K programs. I will link the website in the description box down below, so please be sure to check that website out, look for resources, and you can also check me out on Facebook, and there is a Southwest Georgia Pre-K Teachers Facebook group that you can check out for resources as well. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to be back with you soon bringing you information on another topic. Thank you.